Welcome back to Forum Focus. I'm Wyatt Sharp. I'm joined now by the founder at 917 Strategies, Sarah Salop. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start out with the Trump-Putin meeting that's obviously taking place on Friday. You're getting a lot of discussion amongst kind of the pundits and the elite class, so to speak, in the media.
Right.
They are trying to take it away from Donald Trump, I think. They're not necessarily giving him credit for securing this meeting. Do you think if we look back to the Biden administration, the reason that perhaps they didn't, take a meeting with Vladimir Putin was perhaps A, because Vladimir Putin didn't want to, or maybe Joe Biden didn't want to, or why is it that Donald Trump is able to get to the negotiating table, but previous administrations weren't able to?
I mean, have you ever seen Donald Trump? It's kind of funny. When you look back at it, Joe Biden really did nothing on the international stage to push forward American interests, right? Under the Joe Biden administration, we funneled so much money to Ukraine. It was disturbing. When I worked on Capitol Hill, that was a big issue for us. But when it comes to Donald Trump, it's the history behind Alaska. He could easily have him go to the White House, but, that's too kind. Vladimir Putin has done so much evil in the world, but it's really, really telling and interesting that he chose Alaska
Mhm.
because the U.S. bought Russia, or the U.S. bought Alaska from Russia in 1867
Mm.
for what is like around $143 million right now. So it is a little sign of respect, but at the same time, Zelensky isn't going. So it'll be much harder for Russia with not responding, not putting a ceasefire in place, because Donald Trump is doing so much in putting himself out there, putting America out there. If he doesn't respond well, all hell's going to break loose.
And what do you think, because obviously Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, a bunch of other European leaders have been insistent that he should be invited to this meeting. What might have the dynamics looked like if he did come to this meeting? I mean, you've obviously been in a lot of behind the scenes political circles as well. Maybe just like take us behind the curtain, understand how maybe some of the prep work for this meeting would be happening. And again, what the stakes would have been if Zelensky was involved. And perhaps at what point do you bring him into the discussion?
I'm not sure if there would be a fist fight, complete silence, or Donald Trump just sitting in between them, pushing it to the side. That's the funny thing about it. I don't know if I've ever seen them in the same room together. Obviously, Zelensky and President Trump have had their issues. I mean, you saw what happened when they were in the Oval Office together. That was a mess.
Do you think the same thing will happen with Trump and Putin?
Probably not, because so many strings were pulled for Putin to get to this meeting. However, I think he is scared of Donald Trump. He wasn't scared of Biden. Nobody in the international stage was scared of that. So it will be a show of force, and it's the art of the deal. Something's going to happen. Something's going to be good for the country because it's America first. And America first means international interests. So
And what role does the US play other than like Donald Trump is here, he's trying to help broker some sort of a ceasefire and a stop to fighting. But like what kind of leverage does the US bring to the table and what might Donald Trump be able to use as reasons, whether it be to Ukraine or to Russia, as to why they should come to the negotiating table perhaps together to try and finish it off?
I think because they know America is the one that stands in the way between their big fist fight. When you look at the tariff fight that's going on right now as well, everything comes back to America. They realize that we are the ones in the way, especially after how much money we've given to Ukraine. Putin's probably wanted a lot more than we've seen behind the scenes, but we'll just have to wait and see on Friday.
Yeah. Okay. And just, kind of shifting topics a little bit, talking about kind of the announcement by Donald Trump deploying the National Guard here in DC. He's looking to maybe do that, it seems, in some other cities as well, specifically a lot of Democrat run blue cities. He is kind of using that to say that, the Democrat cities are the ones that have high crime. And, putting politics aside, it's not totally incorrect of him to say that. Certainly, Los Angeles, New York, these are cities that anytime I go there, you can't help but notice they're becoming more dirty. I mean, that doesn't necessarily speak to the crime, but I think it's just unfortunate, obviously, like these cities that used to be, and I guess they still are, iconic in a bunch of different ways, are now where they're at. What do you think, with the announcement by Donald Trump, do you think people in DC, I mean, you're from DC yourself, are going to take what Donald Trump is doing and be supportive of it? Or perhaps could we see something, God forbid, like we saw in 2020 with some of the riots and protests, where there was just so much retaliation and confrontation with some of the additional law enforcement?
It's gotten so bad, especially on the Reddit page or the subreddit for DC. People are calling for violence against Donald Trump for this show of force. But at the same time, there were over 40 arrests made overnight, the first night the National Guard was deployed. I live in Navy Yard. Navy Yard is a cesspool. There are a bunch of 15-year-old thugs running around, carjacking, throwing Roman candles into the street at 6 p.m. and just doing all of these insane things. We need law and order. There needs to be some sort of respect for the police by the Democrats, otherwise nothing is going to get done. Living in DC should mean supporting the people who keep the city safe. Even Muriel Bowser is sitting back saying, we just need to comply.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Sarah Salop, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.